Hey everybody, have a blessed resurrection weekend. We know that Holy Week, this is my 5-minute Bible blast. We know that Holy Week started on Sunday, Palm Sunday, and Jesus is entering Jerusalem. We got that. He's crucified on Friday, and he has been pronounced dead on the cross, was buried in a, what I call a unused virgin tomb. It's an interesting reason why that happened. But as Holy Week started, it started through his prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane. Of course, he had the Lord's Supper. He was asked the disciples to prepare for the Passover. The Lord's Supper took place. The disciples were going like, who's the greatest? Who's the greatest? Jesus had a learning lesson just with the disciples. As we said, the big prayer, pray that you may not enter into temptation. It was a prayer, intense prayer. Jesus was betrayed by Judas, 30 pieces of silver. We know the story from Sunday school. And then Jesus was arrested. And he predicted that before the rooster crows, you will deny me to, of course, Peter. But then it goes that Jesus is before Pilate. You know that he had in his life 6 illegal trials, and they were at night. That was totally illegal. But that's what happened. Then he stands before Herod. So Pilate didn't want any piece of the action because, you know, it was unrest politically and spiritually to the Jews. He sent him to Herod, and Pilate wants to release him. So Herod sends him to Herod. Pilate sends him to Herod. He wants, and Pilate, then they send him back to Pilate. Nobody wants to be involved in that, but the political unrest, the pressure of the Jews and the people put him to be pronounced guilty. And of course, Pilate didn't want, guilty of what? He offered Jesus the opportunity to defend himself, and Jesus said not a word. Silence is golden. Sometimes when you're accused of something you didn't do, the best thing to do is not say anything. So we have that. Pilate seeks Jesus is released. Wouldn't happen. Simon bears the cross. They're all crying, crucify him, crucify him. Simon bears the cross because Jesus was tired. He was scourged, whipped. Obviously, his body was severely distorted and bruised for our iniquities. But I like what Jesus said in verse 28 in Luke 23. Daughters in Jerusalem, stop weeping for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, the days are coming when they will say, blessed are the barren and the wombs that never bore and the breasts that never nursed. Jesus is still working in his Father's vineyard, if you will. He's still working, even though he's carrying his own cross, and it got too heavy, so Simon helped him do that. Then they will begin to say to the mountains, fall on us, and the hills cover us. For if they do these things when the tree is green, what will happen when the tree is dry? He's prophesying it for the end times, isn't he? And then, of course, the crucifixion. And they were very upset that they put the King of the Jews on top of his cross. And then Jesus, always forgiving, looking for a humble heart, says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Good lesson for us. When people that just do stuff to us, say stuff to us, and they just don't know what they're doing, is to forgive them. And he said to him, truly I say to you today, you shall be with me in paradise. He was saying that to one of the criminals that actually got saved on the cross. Got saved by repenting of his sins, acknowledging he was a sinner, and acknowledging that Jesus is the Messiah, the Christ. And he was saved that instant. He was not baptized. And this was by grace alone. And Jesus was buried in an unknown tomb. Joseph of Arimathea, a righteous man, Why was he buried in a tomb that never been used? Lots of scholars say that if there was used before, there could have been bones in there, decaying, rotten flesh that had died in the tomb. And then they could have said, oh, look, he's dead. There is his bones. Well, good news for Christians. Jesus is not in the grave. He has ascended to the Father. Did you know he spent 40 days after his resurrection? And another great fact about Jesus, his resurrection in the tomb. Women were, if you will, the first eyewitnesses to his resurrection. Women that were looked down upon primarily in that culture then. Women. I did a sermon on Women of Witness on my sermon audio site. Go to it. It's called Women of Witness. God trusted women, unlike that culture at that time, to be the first to see that he has risen. And they were also the first evangelists. They went out and started talking about the resurrection. Yes. Be encouraged. So, wanted to just do a little flyby. I call it flyby. You can do a helicopter read and you can do a worms read in God's scripture. And obviously we did the flyby. The resurrection had taken place. After that, the road to Emmaus. What a great Bible study that is. Read that out in Luke 24. What a Bible study too. Talking about the resurrection, Jesus comes in. We know the story. He tells them everything. Everything. What a Bible study that would be. Being taught the Bible by God himself who wrote the Bible. That's pretty amazing. I did a skit in Vacation Bible School, about 6 minutes long. I'll put it online. It's a good, interesting, fun thing. Other appearances. He appeared for 40 days and 40 nights. Remember, he was on the beach. The disciples saw him. They rushed to him. They dove in the water. Jesus was cooking fish and grilling fish and breaking bread for his disciples that were fishing. They had gone back to what they knew to do. Here's one for you. How did Jesus in his resurrection body make breakfast? How did he do it? Breakfast. Yeah, you may have heard that one before, but God bless you and your family this resurrection weekend. May your joy and peace be overflowing in Jesus Christ's name. May his grace abound in your life, no matter what your problems are. He is risen, y'all, from the dead. He sits at the right hand of the throne of God, and he's making intercession for you and I. We'll see him soon. If you're like me, you're one day closer to being like Jesus, being with Jesus forever. Jesus has risen from the dead. Encouraging words. God bless you and your family. Take care.